Hello, today we're going to be introducing the new MX series by CPS to the industry. We want to go over some features and benefits, the overall look of the machine, and functionality. After you've unpacked the machine and getting ready for your first use, we highly recommend that you plug the machine directly into a wall socket. You'll notice that the machine is on. We're currently on our home screen. And I want everyone to notice that the service hoses are not currently connected to the vehicle. The reason for that is during the initial power-up sequence of the machine, we want to make sure that it's cleared all of the air and vacuum out of the system and it's ready to go. You do not want to hook up service hoses prior to turning the machine on. You're going to get an error message and not start off correctly. So taking a look at the home screen, we're currently going to be working on the MX1234 for the R1234YF vehicles. To the left, you have a set of analog gauges, high side, low side, red, blue, measuring both pressure and vacuum. And then on the home screen, you're going to have a series of functions on the left side of the screen: recovery, vacuum, charge, if you go manually. And then if you want to do a full cycle, which means you're going to go through all of the functions fully automatic, you would hit the full cycle. And then for tank refill, that's the bottom button down here on the left. On the machine, you'll also notice the home screen. We've already gone through the functions on the left. What refrigerant are we currently using? Well, it's going to tell us right up here on the left-hand side. We're currently working on an R1234YF vehicle. The icon out to the left is going to show us what we currently have in our tank, which is 4.280 kilograms. Our filter life currently at 100%. Very important. You want to make sure you're keeping an eye on that as you perform services through the season. And then this is a car health mode to check temperature and pressure. And you want to use that before and after the service. The RCA port right here in front, you'll be able to see that to the right of the power button. That's where you're going to plug in a tethered temperature probe, and that tethered temperature probe will go into the center panel vent in the vehicle. Refrigerant. We will need to identify both what's in the tank and what's in the vehicle. So the refrigerant identifier is of utmost importance on the 1234YF machines, and that's an SAE standard. That is not a standard put forth by CPS. It's something that we're all having to do in the US. And then this last icon over here is for a vehicle database. This is very important when you're needing to know what the factory fill is on refrigerant type, refrigerant measurement amount, and also the compressor oil in the vehicle. You'll have the date, the time. A print function is lit up down here on this icon closest to the time. A series of maintenance and upkeep is what it's referred to on the machine as the icon as the gears. Question mark, needing help. And then the last icon available on the home screen is the hybrid EV high voltage compressor button. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the charge function of the vehicle, but as of now, that's just letting you know what that's there for, and we'll show you later on in the demonstration how it comes into play.
Now we're going to show you how to set up one of the new features available on this unit, Wi-Fi connectivity. As you can see, we are not connected because you don't see a Wi-Fi icon next to the manifold. To start the setup, we first select the gear that's located between the printer and the question mark icon at the bottom of the main screen. Then we select the gear icon on the machine upkeep menu. After that, we select the connectivity icon that's located on the left side of the bottom row. Then we select the Wi-Fi icon and choose the appropriate network. Press the next arrow and type in the appropriate password for the network you have chosen. and press Next. Afterwards, press the next arrow again and the red X. If you are successful, you will see a Wi-Fi icon displayed on the main screen. If not, then repeat the process.
Other wireless functions you have for this particular new MX machine by CPS is you have Bluetooth capabilities. We already showed you Wi-Fi, the ability to set up the wireless on your network, a printer on your network, email for emailing the customer or the shop, and also a thermal printer opportunity for you to also hook up through Wi-Fi. Just a tip to save you some time when you go through here and you're setting up your printer function. If you're checking the Wi-Fi wireless printer, you're only going to have a check mark here and nowhere else. If you're using the printer on the machine, if you choose to add on that particular feature, you want to make sure that none of these are checked. And if you're using a handheld thermal printer, nothing is checked except this icon right here. Going further into the setup screen, some other functions that are available that you'll need to know about. This icon on the upper left is to choose language, whichever part of the world you happen to be in. You can choose the language selection there. The next one is measurements. Very, very important. We'll touch on that a little bit later. We'll get into that. The tank is the refrigerant type that you're currently working on. The last one on the upper row is going to be your job tracker software. We already covered Wi-Fi. The stopwatch is going to be date and time, how to set that. The percentage on the tank, that's going to be dealing with the purity rate of the refrigerant that you're recovering. It's very important that that remain at 97.5 or above. The next icon with the pencil and pad is going to be related to input for the shop name. And then the SAE mode, that's for testing purposes only, and we recommend that the machine stay in SAE mode the entire time. Going back to the measurement system, one item that I want to bring to your attention, clicked on the icon. Obviously there's pounds, kilograms. You want to set that up with whatever the shop is comfortable with or whatever the vehicle you're working with calls for. Altitude. Where we're currently manufacturing and setting up these MX units, we're currently at an altitude of 7 feet above sea level. Basically we're at sea level. Very important that you check the altitude of where this machine is currently being used. You can Google that information by inputting the address through a Google search on your phone, and it should tell you altitude. But that is very, very important. This was not covered in machines previously in the setup instructions that we should have done, but we found that it's highly important to make sure that your altitude setting is correct. The last icon on the upper left is for zeroing the pressure transducers if necessary. Starting on the lower left, this is going to be your air purge function. Middle right, that's going to be I brought that up so that you can see how it's a service menu for rotating and servicing the valves and controls. And then the last button, we're currently working on that one right now. We'll have later information on that particular icon later. We mentioned the car health icon and measuring temperature and pressure prior to performing the service so that the customer can see a good illustration of before and after. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take the temperature probe that comes with the unit and plug it into the RCA port on the front of the machine. All right, we've taken the temperature probe and put it into the center panel vent of the vehicle. We're now going to start the car health mode. Press the icon. It's now going to go through the refrigerant identification process. Note that it says do not connect hoses to the vehicle. Very, very important that the service hoses remain away from the vehicle. Okay, we've analyzed the refrigerant. We're now moving on to attaching and opening the couplers on the service ports for the vehicle and starting the vehicle. We've located the service ports to perform the service on the vehicle. High side service port, low side service port. All right, so we had the vehicle running. We're now going to measure temperature and pressure prior to performing the service in the car health mode.
So we previously demonstrated how to do the car health mode using the standard puncture probe that comes with the unit. Now we're going to do the same demonstration, but we're going to use the optional Tacky 100 wireless kit that is purchased separately. This wireless Tacky 100 kit allows us to perform the same health mode without physically connecting anything to the unit, but in addition to the standard cabin air temperature, we also now have a proper condenser air temperature, which allows us to perform a better functional test. We're going to demonstrate how to configure it. First thing we will do is we'll go to the Wi-Fi icon. We'll hit the icon, and first we'll go to the Bluetooth section. This is the only Bluetooth device that we will be demonstrating. First, it's going to ask you to turn the blue coupler on. It's going to acknowledge the IP address. Make sure in the serial number that you have the correct serial number for the blue device. You're going to acknowledge it, hit the right arrow. It's going to repeat the same process for the red one. Once you complete and you acknowledge that both of the devices are properly connected, hit the right arrow and hit the left to go back to the home screen. Now we're ready to perform a car health using the Tacky 100s. We're now going to demonstrate the car health mode. We'll press the icon. It's going to tell us to start the car. We're going to press the forward arrow. Give it about a minute for it to populate the values. Now we can see how the values populate. You have your low side pressure, your high side pressure, your ambient air temperature, and your cabin air temperature.
All right, we've run our car health mode prior to performing the service. Next, we're going to proceed to the recovery mode. With the service hoses attached to the vehicle, we're going to start that process now. We're in the recovery process of the service. It's best just to check and make sure everything is moving along according to plan. And it appears that it is at this particular point. Also, after the recovery process is completed, and we're utilizing the CPS patented oilless compressor at this particular moment, there's going to be an oil drain process where it's going to drain the compressor oil from the vehicle after the recovery process. We spoke earlier about the recovery process and the oil drain feature that happens afterwards. On the lower right-hand side of the machine, that's where you're going to find the plastic bottle with graduated markings for the amount of compressor oil that came out of the vehicle. We're going to want to make sure we check that and refill to that capacity using the Spotgun Jr oil injection system. Okay, the recovery process is finished. The oil drain process is finished. We've recovered 0.480 kilograms of refrigerant. We're going to move on to the vacuum cycle at this point. Again, we're going to select the vacuum icon. We're going to set the vacuum time for 45 minutes on this particular service. After 15 minutes, the machine is programmed to do a 2-minute leak down check automatically. Again, if you press the 15 button here or above, then it's going to perform a 2-minute leak down check automatically. In the charge process, the charge function, if you will, it's going to ask you a very important question, and that is, does the vehicle utilize a high voltage compressor? Basically, are we working on an EV unit, a hybrid unit, or an electrically driven compressor of another type? We are not using that. This vehicle does not utilize a high voltage compressor, so we're going to answer no to that, not the check mark. Okay, in the charge function, it's going to ask us, it's going to start out with the amount that we want to charge back into the vehicle. So we're going to go through the vehicle database to find the charge amount for this particular vehicle. All the MX units come with the vehicle database included. Press the database icon, enter the year of the vehicle. Enter the vehicle make. And the model. Here we found the refrigerant type, 1234YF, capacity, and the PAG oil type that it uses for the compressor. We're now going to press the check key that we've determined which particular amount we're going to use on the charge. Charging up, we're going to select both high and low side ports and hit continue. The charge cycle is now complete. We are starting the vehicle to close or to remove any of the refrigerant left in the service hoses. The next service that we're going to perform is the car health mode at the end of the service. Okay, we're now coming to the close and the end of our service. It's asking us now to close the high side coupler. We're now going to close both couplers and disconnect from the vehicle. Okay, we've completed the charging function. We're now getting a reminder, we've disconnected the service hoses from the vehicle. We're now being reminded that we did an oil drain after the recovery process of compressor oil. Well, we now need to put that compressor oil back into the vehicle. Turning the MX unit around, one of the things you'll notice is everything is pretty easily accessed with our new design. Another big change that we made was our rugged tubular steel heavy-duty design that we have incorporated on this machine. Starting from the bottom, underneath the tank, that's going to be your scale. Hooked to the On top of that would be your 30-pound tank for the 1234YF refrigerant. Continuing to move northward, we have a high and low side valve opening for feeding into the hoses. On top of that is going to be your refrigerant filter. And on the left side, you'll see two open black capped fittings. If we were to answer yes to that question during the charge of are we working on a high voltage compressor, that is where you will hook the low and high side lines to flush the lines of refrigerant and oil. To the left of the filter, that is where the refrigerant identifier on the 1234 machine is enclosed. What you're able to see there is the bracket and the filter. Also on the hoses, high and low side, there's two valves currently sitting open. Those can be closed if you're replacing the tank. Up from there is going to be this particular MX unit is equipped with a printer. That's optional, but it can be ordered along with the machine. This one has it. That's where it would be located. And then right next to that is the insertion for the vehicle database that comes with all MX units.